bend over. The wood is smoothed while crafting a handmade masterpiece.
There's a lot of sweat and hours I put into it.
The man behind the tools works like a seasoned pro.
When you're doing stuff handmade, they look for the neatness, they look for the preciseness.
You could say Henry James sort of fell into woodworking.
When I first started, I couldn't build a square box. I was persistent, and I stayed with it.
He didn't learn the trade from his father or a friend. He learned it in prison while serving a life sentence.
This was my peace of mind here and holding on and to stay positive.
Henry was supposed to live and die behind prison walls, never again to see the light of day. He was convicted in 1981 of raping a neighbor and sent to Angola. He says he was offered a plea deal before his trial, admit guilt, and spend 25 years in prison. He wouldn't do it.
I didn't do anything wrong. And my mother used to always tell me as a child coming up, stand up for what you believe in.
At 20 years old, thrust into an environment that would break most men, Henry found a hobby, something that helped him stay sane.
But I had to stay positive. I had to keep my mind focused on what I wanted, what I believed in.
Over the years, he honed his skills, moving from basic wooden benches to more intricate pieces. The work, often sold at the Angola rodeo, kept him busy and happy.
I just come up with stuff that I think that someone else might like. I got a plan. I plan it down, sand it.
A sort of refuge from the dog-eat-dog world he lived in. One day, 30 years later, the surprise of a lifetime. A Jefferson Parish Crime Lab technician stumbled upon a lab sample from the case all those years before. Testing proved Henry's DNA didn't match DNA found on the woman he'd been accused of raping. A judge vacated his conviction, and on October 21, 2011, Henry James walked out of prison a free man.
My feeling remained positive because I felt that, somewhere down the line, the Lord is going to bless me, going to deliver me out.
Walking into a brand new world at the age of 50 felt foreign, but there was one thing he carried with him, his newfound skill.
I'm in peace, as you can see. I come here, when I cut off from work, I feel like I want to do something. Most of the time I do.
Tucked away behind his home, a small, run-down shed.
And I go right in there to myself, put my little music on, and I do what I do.
In his quiet place, away from the constant noise that was prison, Henry transforms pieces of old wood into works of art.
Like these chairs is something that I can look at for years to come, and something that I built, and created.
Henry doesn't buy any of the wood he uses. Some of it he finds along the side of the road. Other pieces are donated. What other people would consider trash, he finds beautiful.
There's old saying, was one man junk, it's the next man treasure.
Henry James certainly felt discarded, thrown away. But he found salvation, even in prison.
I had a chance to be a bad guy, a messed up guy, but, and I'm striving through all this here. But I chose to go, I drove myself to the woodwork to get away from that.
It was, he explains, the only bright spot in a very dark place. Nowadays, his pieces dot his New Orleans home, hanging next to the reminders of how far he's come.
Because I would hate for you to get something today and tomorrow, oh man, this leg broke.
Henry sells his pieces to family and friends while he tries to save up for a shop.
I would like to have a few instructors at certain machines.
He wants it not only for himself, but to teach other young men his skill.
I'm giving them something that's going to take them a long way in life, and they make it. Little positive thing turn into greater positive thing.
Henry James knows life isn't perfect. Like the wood he works with, it's got imperfections, and it certainly hasn't been smooth. But it's what you make of it that counts, and Henry chooses something beautiful.
But I always felt that if I ever get a chance to be free, This is what I wanted to do. So I thank God for that.
Meg Gatto, Fox 8 News.